Good morning, everybody. Today we'll be discussing the amendments which will be applicable for November 2020 examination. ICAI has given the announcement and relating to the statutory updates which will be applicable for November 2020 examination. Now, as per the said announcement, all the amendments in CGST Act, IGST Act, which has been made by Finance Number 2 Act 2019, which has been made effective from 1st of January 2020. The same will be applicable for November 2020 examinations. So we'll be discussing those amendments as well as the changes in rules which have been made through notifications. All the notifications and circulars which have been issued up to 30/4/2020 that will also be applicable for the November 2020 examination. And similarly in the customs laws also, and foreign trade policy also, the notifications and circulars which have been made effective up to 30th of April 2020, the same will be asked for November 2020 examination. So the Institute of the Chartered Accountants of India has given this announcement. So in that it has been provided that the for November 2020 examinations, the provisions of the CGST Act, IGST Act, which has been amended by the Finance Number 2 Act 2019 and have been made effective up to 30th of April 2020. So it is 1/1/2020, certain amendments have been made effective. So from that, those amendments will be asked, including whatever significant notifications and circulars and other legislative amendments which have been made up to 30th of April 2020 that will be asked. Besides this, in Customs Act as well as in the Tariff Act, Finance Number 2 Act 2019 amendments will be applicable with all significant notifications and circulars which have been issued up to 30th of April 2020. The said amendments will be applicable. So we have divided these amendments, chapter-wise we will be discussing, and in certain chapters, major amendments have been there, then we will be covering that entire chapter. So first of all, is the amendment which is applicable is in the charging section, that is charge of GST. In this chapter, section 9(3) is dealing with what? The services which are leviable to tax under RCM, under reverse charge mechanism, where the recipient of the service is liable to pay GST on the same. So an amendment has been made by the notification number 29/2019, which has been effective from this 31st of December 2019, 1/1/2020, that amendment has been made effective, basically, which provides for what? Services which are provided by way of, say, renting of any motor vehicle. Here what has been provided is renting of any motor vehicle. There is a renting of motor vehicle, and this motor vehicle is designed to carry passengers. This motor vehicle is designed to carry passengers, and services are provided by a person other than body corporate. So it is not a body corporate, service supplier is not a body corporate, and it is provided to a body corporate. Service is supplied to a body corporate, and they are paying GST at rate of 5%. At rate of 5% GST is paid, and when GST is paid at rate of 5%, the service supplier is entitled to take the input tax credit in respect of the same line of business. Limited input tax credit is allowed. Then in that case, if service supplier is a person other than a body corporate, and services supplied to a person who is a body corporate. Reverse charge mechanism is there, and the body corporate which is located where in the taxable territory will be liable to pay GST on the same. If services are supplied by a body corporate to another body corporate, then what happens is forward charge mechanism is there. When services are supplied by any person, and the applicable GST rate is 12%, in which the service supplier is entitled to take the input tax credit of all the input and input services. Then also, when GST is levied at rate of 12%, forward charge mechanism is there. So fundamentally, this entry 15 has been inserted in the notification, which provides that services provided by way of renting of any motor vehicle. Services are supplied by way of, say, renting of motor vehicle, which is designed to carry passengers. And that service is what? That is renting of motor vehicles designed to carry passengers. And the cost of fuel is included in the consideration charged from the service recipient. Here, the cost of fuel is included in the consideration which has been charged from the service recipient, and the service is supplied basically to a body corporate. Then only the RCM mechanism will be there. Then only reverse charge mechanism is there. Service supplier must be any person. He must be any person other than body corporate. Service supplier is a person. He is a person other than body corporate. And who supplies services? Services are supplied to a body corporate. Services are what? Supplied to a body corporate. And he does not issue an invoice charging central tax at rate of 6% to the service recipient. Basically, the GST rate, in case 12% GST is charged, then forward charge mechanism is there. So here, service supplier is any person other than a body corporate. Services are supplied to a body corporate. Rate of GST is 5%. Cost of, say, fuel is included. And service supplier is entitled to take the credit of the services which he has availed in respect of same line of business. And here, in this case, when services are supplied by a person other than a body corporate to a body corporate, GST rate is 5%. In that case, reverse charge mechanism is applicable, and the body corporate, which is located in the taxable territory, is liable to pay GST on the same. So this amendment has been made with effect from 31st of December 2019. Basically, fundamentally now, who is a person liable to pay tax in respect of renting of motor vehicles? These renting of motor vehicles are designed to carry passengers. We have two rate structures. One is 5% GST rate is there. 5% GST rate is there, provided what? Supplier of services has taken credit, limited credit of ITC, limited credit of ITC is there. That is of input services in the same line of business. One is 5% GST, where you can take the input tax credit of the same line of business. Other one is GST rate is 12%, where supplier of services opts to pay GST and at the said rate. And in this case, there is basically no restriction on availing ITC on the input and input services which are used in respect of what? The motor vehicles. So when 12% GST is leviable, we can take the credit of the goods as well as services. When 5% GST is applicable, then we can take only the credit of what? Whatever services we have availed in respect of same line of business, in the sense that we have availed services of renting of motor vehicles, we are supplying services of renting of motor vehicles, we can take the credit of the same. So here, when GST is payable at rate of 12%, irrespective who is the supplier of service, forward charge mechanism is there, and the person who is liable to pay GST here is what? The supplier of service, when GST is payable at rate of 12%. The concept comes from here, when the GST is payable at rate of 5%. When GST, the same is payable at rate of, say, 5%. In this case, if supplier of service is a person other than a body corporate, if supplier of service is a person other than body corporate and recipient is a body corporate, then only reverse charge mechanism is there. Supplier of service is a person other than body corporate and the recipient is a body corporate, reverse charge mechanism is there. And in case the body corporate here located in the taxable territory, will be liable to pay GST on the same. In the second one, when the supplier is a body corporate, recipient may be a person, he is a body corporate, or he may not be a body corporate. In that particular circumstance, forward charge mechanism is there. So reverse charge mechanism is applicable only when supplier of service is body corporate, then is a supplier of services other than body corporate, and services supplied to a body corporate, applicable rate of GST is 5%. Then reverse charge mechanism is there. Otherwise, in all other cases, there will be what? Forward charge mechanism. If supplier of service is a person other than a body corporate, but services are supplied to non-body corporate, GST rate is there, then also forward charge mechanism is there. If supplier of service is a body corporate, then whether the services are supplied to a body corporate or non-body corporate, then forward charge mechanism is there. If GST is levied at rate of 12%, who may be the service supplier, forward charge mechanism is there. When 12% GST is there, the supplier is entitled to avail the input tax credit of the goods and services, and will be charging GST at rate of 12% in his tax invoice. So it is basically important to note that where service is placed under reverse charge mechanism, supplier shall not charge any tax from the service recipient, as this is what a settled procedure in law under RCM. Thus, in case supplier does not issue an invoice charging GST at rate of 12%, that is 6% CGST and 6% SGST, IUT GST, or 12% IGST from the service recipient. So fundamentally, this circular has been provided explaining the amendment which has been introduced with effect from 31st of December 2019. So this amendment was there in case of, say, reverse charge mechanism. Then our second chapter, which is dealing with the composition scheme. Since substantial amendments have been made in composition scheme, we will be discussing the entire details. First of all, we will be discussing the amendments which have been made under section 10(1) relating to what? Composition schemes, which is meant for supplier of goods. Then 10(2)A has been introduced, which we will be discussing, that is a composition scheme which has been meant for service suppliers. So separately, we will be discussing those amendments which has been made under the composition scheme. Majorly, entire chapter has been, say, under composition scheme has been revised basically. So substantial amendments have been made. So we'll be discussing those amendments separately. Then the next amendments which are applicable are in relation to exemptions from goods and services tax. You know, entry 41 was dealing with leasing services. That is, an amendment has been made in entry 41 relating to what? Long-term lease of industrial plots or plots for development of, say, infrastructure for finance business. So here, earlier, prior to the amendment, the if the government entity's ownership must be what? 50% or more in that entity, central government or state government, union territory, ownership was 50% or more. Now that ownership criteria has been, say, reduced to 20%. Now basically, and certain conditions have also been incorporated relating to getting the benefit of the exemption. So what now entry 41 is? Basically, we are giving, the government is, say, giving long-term lease of these plots, that is industrial plots, plots for infrastructure development for finance businesses. So these leasing activity, the same has been made exempt with certain conditions have been, say, introduced. Whatever upfront amount is receivable, whether it is received in installments or in one lump sum, exemption has been provided in respect of what? That upfront amount. So it is what? Upfront amount called premium. It may be called premium, it may be called salami, it may be called cost, price, or development charges, or by any other name. payable in respect of service. So government is providing you the service, which service by way of granting of long-term lease of 30 years or more. There's a long-term lease of 30 years or more of these industrial plots. They are industrial plots which are given on lease, or plots for development of infrastructure for finance business. And the same has been provided by the state government industrial development corporations. These have been provided by whom? These long-term leases have been given by the state government industrial development corporations or undertakings or any other entity. They are having 20% or more of ownership of the central government. Earlier it was 50%. This amendment has been made effective from 1st of January 2020. Earlier it was 50%. Now it is 20% or more of ownership is there of the entity of in that entity of the central government, state government, union territory. And these upfront amount has been made exempt. These industrial plots, they are made available to the industrial units or the developers in any industrial or finance business area. So fundamentally, exemption was provided in relation to upfront amount which was payable in respect of service by of granting long-term leases of industrial plots or plots for development of infrastructure for finance businesses. And the same has been provided. Services are supplied by the state government industrial development corporations or undertakings, the other entities in which the ownership of the central government, state government, union territory is what? 20% or more. Now here the conditions have been provided. What conditions have been provided is, say if these undertaking, these lessors, they are giving the plots, the plots for say the infrastructure development, yeah, say for industrial purposes, then the use must be for that particular purpose only. So the leased plots, the same shall be used for the purpose for which they are allotted. This condition has been introduced. So the leased plots which shall be used for what? The purpose for which they are allotted, that is for what? Industrial or financial activity in industrial or financial business area. So you cannot change the use, basically. That has been the basic condition. And the state government concerned will monitor and enforce the above condition as per the order which has been issued by the state government in this regard. So monitoring will be there by the state government that the condition is, say, not violated. And in case if there is any violation of the condition, whatever benefit of exemption has been taken, the same will be withdrawn, and tax, interest and penalty will be payable by the lessor as well as the lessee jointly. So in case of any violation or subsequent change of land use, in case there is a violation or subsequent change of land use due to any reason whatsoever, the original lessor, original lessee, as well as subsequent lessee or buyer or the owner, they will be jointly and severally liable to pay such amount of the tax as would have been payable on the upfront amount charged for the long-term lease of the plots, but for exemption contained therein, along with applicable tax, applicable interest and penalty. So here, if any violation of condition is there, say you have changed the use of land or you have violated the condition, then in that particular circumstance, the original lessor as well as the lessee or subsequent lessee or the owner, they will be jointly and severally liable for what? They will be jointly and severally liable for the payment of the tax along with interest and penalty. Tax, the exemption benefit which you have obtained, that amount of tax along with interest and penalty is to be paid. And then they say that the lease agreement entered into by the original lessor with the original lessee or with the subsequent lessee or sublessee, as well as any subsequent lease or sale agreements. So these agreements basically must provide for the condition relating to the use. So here the lease agreement which has been entered into by the original lessor with the original lessee or subsequent lessee or sublessee, as well as subsequent lease or sale agreements for lease or sale of such plots to subsequent lessees or buyers or owners. They shall incorporate the terms and conditions the fact that central tax was exempted on the long-term lease for the original plots by the original lessor to the original lessee, subject to the above condition, and the parties to the said agreement undertake to comply with the same. So they say in that subsequent lease agreements also, as well as in the initial lease agreements, this must be specifically mentioned that the long-term lease which has been provided, the said is exempt on the condition that the land will be used for the specified purposes. In the agreement, it must be mentioned. In subsequent lease agreements also, the same must be mentioned. And here, the central government or the state government or the union territory, they are holding, say, 20% or more of ownership in the entity, so that can be owned directly, or it can be owned through any entity also in which the central government, state government, yeah, union territory is what? Holding whole of its capital. It's wholly owned entity it is of the central government, or state government, or the union territory. So they have provided an explanation to the said effect that the central government, state government, union territory shall have what? 20% or more of ownership in the entity directly or through an entity which is fully, say, wholly owned by the central government or state government or the union territory. So this exemption has been provided and conditions basically have been incorporated. 50% ownership criteria has been reduced to 20%, and these conditions have been incorporated in this entry 41 of the relevant notification. So we have discussed this. This amendment has been made in entry 41. Besides, exemption was provided for FIFA, FIFA under 17 women's, under 18 women's World Cup was to be held in India, but because of COVID, the same has not been organized. So exemption was provided for that admission to, and as well as what our services are provided to FIFA or by FIFA, the same have been what? Made exempt. With that exemption, basically FIFA has not been held. So therefore what? This exemption is not much relevant for your examination point of view. So it was amended. So that amendment was also there in this exemption notification. So this is a major amendment which has been there in entry 41 of notification number 12/2017 CT rate. So you remember this. This can be asked in your examination. So this was an amendment which was applicable for exemptions. Now our next amendment which we'll be discussing is relating to place of supply. In section 1313, the central government has a power to notify any description of services where, to prevent double taxation or non-taxation, where the place of supply is basically the effective use or enjoyment of service. So in order to prevent what? The non-taxation or say double taxation of supply of service, the central government, they may what? Notify any description of services or the circumstances in which the place of supply is what? The effective use or enjoyment of service. And in last say amendments have been made with effect from 1st of October 2019, where they have provided certain pharmaceutical services in relation to drug, where basically the place of supply was what? The location of the recipient of service. An amendment has been made from 1/4/2020 in that notification. Further, they have introduced what? The business-to-business maintenance, repair and overall services in relation to what? Aircrafts, aircraft engines, and that has been, say, introduced with effect from 1/4/2020, where the place of supply of service shall be what? The location of the recipient of service. So basically this has been introduced, that is supply of maintenance, repair or overhaul services in respect of aircraft, supply of maintenance, repairs and overhaul services in respect of aircrafts, aircraft engines and other aircraft components or parts supplied to a person for use in course or furtherance of the business. Here these services are supplied to a person for use in course or furtherance of business, and the place of supply of such service shall be what? The location of the recipient of service. So if any maintenance, repairs or overall services are provided to, say, a service recipient which is located outside India, or service supplier is outside India and same is supplying to a service recipient in India, in that case the place of supply of such service shall be what? The location of the recipient of service. So this amendments have been made with effect from 1/4/2020, wide notification number 2/2020. Notification number 2/2020 dated 26/3/2020, and same has been made effective from 1st of April 2020. So you remember this. Here the place of supply of service shall be what? The effective shall be the location of the recipient of the services, and the said notification has been introduced by virtue of section 1313. So this was the amendment which has been made in our place of supply chapter. Next is valuation, that is value of supply. As you are aware of the fact that in case of lotteries, Rule 31A was there, which was providing valuation in case of lotteries. Now whether it's run by a state government or whether it's not run by a state government, that has been authorized by the state government, the rate of GST has been now, say, enhanced. When it was run by state government, it was 12%, it has been enhanced to 28%. Therefore, consequential amendment has been made in relation to what? Value of supply in case of lottery, that is in Rule 31A, which was dealing with lottery, betting and gambling valuation. So here, the value of supply of lottery shall be deemed to be, the value of supply of lottery shall be deemed to be now 100 upon 128, because rate of GST is 28%. So consequential amendment has been made now of the face value of the ticket, of the face value of the lottery ticket, or the price which has been notified in the official gazette by the organizing state, which are, say, higher. And basically organizing state is that state which is organizing the lottery. So now only no 12% rate is there. Now it is what? 28%. So here the value of supply of lottery shall be deemed to be what? 100 upon 128 of what? The face value of the ticket or the price as notified by the in the official gazette by the organizing state, whichever is higher. So 12% criteria is not there now because rate is not there. Therefore, it is now 28%. So these amendments have been made in chapter value of supply. Now we will be discussing relating to the composition and input tax credit in our next lecture.